Hi everyone, here to give a quick recap of a session that I gave recently because I thought there'd be a lot of value for a lot of you out there in just one of the aspects that we covered. The session itself, I used the 3D system, and very early on, one of the things that flagged up to me in the way that the player moved was the control around the pelvis in the very start of the swing. So you'll also get a little bit of an insight here into how we kind of use 3D. So the pelvis, I look at the pelvis and I see it moving a certain way. So if you can see it here on the side of the screen here, how the pelvis in the very start of the swing wanted to move quite a lot towards the target. So the way we use 3D is, or the way I've been come to the place where I use 3D now, is not just to initially look at the segment and think, oh, that's what needs to be corrected, that's where the attention needs to go. It's more of like what we've got, this data now, we've got this information, whatever we want to call it. Let's look at the system as a whole and try and understand why the pelvis is responding that way in the start of the swing. So for the player that I had that came in the other day, just one of the things that was really influencing the pelvis moving that way was the way they were sort of stood as far as foot position and then knee position. The player did a really good job from down the line with let's just say their bends this way, if we're looking through his body down from the down the line view. However, from face on, I'll just grab a club here, and he's set up, he was quite wide with his foot position, and then quite a lot turned out with his left foot, and then the left knee maybe even turned out more than the laces on his foot. So when we get into a position like that, then I'm thinking okay, let's consider how that's going to influence the start of the move in the backswing. How could that influence the pelvis moving in a certain way? So for me in the backswing, one thing I like to see is someone really kind of move nicely into the right hip. Right from really the start, like to just see a nice gradual load around the right side. Now, if someone with this play that was set up the other day, with the foot being turned out and the knee kind of being there, this bone here then is turned that way inside his hip socket. So when someone stands that way and force someone to load their right side, you actually need them to move quite nicely around here as well. It needs to be moving away to facilitate that loading. But when he stood like this, what then we saw next was the pelvis the brain kind of knew that where it was trying to get to. And earlier on in the swing, you see the pelvis respond in a way to kind of put everything in a position so that you can kind of later on in the swing try and get that turn that he's looking for. So essentially what's happening is, because it's not the best setup, what happens early on in the swing then is the body tries to self-create and then self-correct and try and get itself into a position where it can do the concept that it's trying to achieve. So for this player, it was really a case of as soon as I raise the awareness with the player and I show them the image that I've kind of just shown you there on the screen of the pelvis moving quite drastically that way in the start of the backswing, that raises this little flag, okay, let's resolve that with the player. And sometimes that awareness is enough for the player to kind of say, oh, okay, yeah, I can feel it doing that. It's got to not do that, or it's got to do something else to achieve not doing that. Or it takes a little bit more exploring or something that can help the player. So if there was the one thing that I kind of want to leave with everyone for a tip for everyone is foot position it's very unique to each individual that plays the game. But I would say to you all, kind of search for where the best foot position is for you. And if you don't have access to an expert, as far as maybe a doctor or specialist in the body that can kind of advise for you where that, how you're going to sit best around your pelvis in a dress to help you to kind of move well around there and achieve rotation in a really nice way, then maybe just explore yourself, go out there and explore, if I turn you know, right foot out a little bit, does that help here? If I turn sort of left foot out a touch more, how does that work for me to help you to kind of move through the shot? You know, just go out there and explore where the foot position works best for you, if that's the best sort of you can do. But I would always say, if you can, go and see someone, because the doctors we have here, Dr. Brendan, who works with the MMG program, he pretty much sort of outlines to us as the coaches where a person stands best throughout the whole system, not just sort of foot position, but throughout the whole system. But the other day, Doc B wasn't available. I'm on the range with the player, so I give him sort of something that gets him within, want to raise his awareness, but gets him sort of within sort of, for most people, a certain amount of parameter. So I'm just going to pull out of my bag here a little performance band that we do a ton of different exercises with the guys with this. In fact, before we get to this, the foot position for the player, all we did was just we turned the left foot in a little bit, and then we used the band then on the player to sort of cue knee position. And then also with the band, he instantly didn't get as wide because it's pulling on him. But I don't think it's specifically the band that was to cue that. It was just more we want him to be awareness of not getting too wide with his foot. So not quite as wide. But then also with this here, with the band, just kind of like working the knees. I usually one at a time in your posture there. Allow the band to sort of move it in and then move out. And this is a great warm up before you play as well, just to kind of get you sort of working around here, out in sort of the glute medius, outside these muscles here that all surround the hip joint. So let it move in and out, and then try and keep good connection through the ground when doing this. So I'm not letting the toe and the foot roll up, keeping good connection through the foot, and allowing the knee to work in and sort of out, and then finding sort of a happy medium where the knee should sort of rest right over the laces. And then same on this side. So he was sort of this way with the knee out. We turned the foot in, not in, but we turned it in more. So it's like right now, if I was to lay a golf club down here, we sort of put it so you could fit sort of a golf ball between his toe and the shaft. And on the right side, we probably got it to where it was probably half a golf ball between there and the shaft. Because that's typically kind of where I'll take someone if I haven't had them screened by a doctor with a foot position. And then left knee, again keeping good connection with the big toe, the outside of the foot and your heel, just working it in and out, and then sort of back on over the laces, and then that's kind of gives him sort of that position there. I put an alignment stick then in the ground over here to sort of cue not to do that shift forward anymore. But already then what we've done is we've put the body into a position now where it doesn't have to kind of shift to the left to create a better position to move from. So from here, he can be much more sort of controlled in that initial start of the swing than he was before. And then there were a ton of things that I saw sort of in the player's movement and in the 3D data later on in the swing, moving into impact, post swing, that really the initial start to backswing were having a chain effect knocking onwards towards those. So when I get to work with a player on a more consistent basis, it's really nice to be able to go back and just line things up one at a time. Let's do a really good job of setup. Let's do a really good job with start of swing. Let's see how that then slowly influences what's happening later on in the swing. And yes, there are times when I have to move ahead and line things up a little bit of impact, because we don't want to go out there and not hit it great and sort of not have that connection between, oh, I'm doing this at the start, how do I improve impact? You always have to have that connection, so it's like, okay, this here improves this here through the shot and it creates better ball flight. So it's nice to be able to start from the beginning and kind of clean stuff up from there moving onwards, with a connection to how that improves the ball flight. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that kind of hits home with, like, you know, one of the what we call the simple things in golf that has sort of a big influence on how we perform long term. If we can really understand foot position and sort of knee position from sort of face on, there's just a couple of different things that go to playing, you know, really good golf and playing golf in a really healthy, moving way, so that we don't ever really come across any injuries. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions on that.